Hello, this is Ruby from the Useful Journal. I have the second edition of the bullet journal done by Leuchtturm1917 for you today. It's made in a partnership with Ryder Carroll, who is the creator of the bullet journal system. So they've come up with this new edition that, among other improvements, has 120 GSM paper. So we're going to have a look at it and see how it performs. It comes in two colours. This is the blush pink colour, and it also comes in black, specifically designed for bullet journal users. There is alternatively an unmarked version. I happen to have one here. So this one is 120 GSM as well. They've got 4 different colours. So if you don't want all the bullet journal markings, but you do want the same kind of paper but at 120 GSM that Leuchtturm1917 offers, then they do have this series as well. And that comes in dots, lines and unlined. It comes like this, just shrink wrapped. It has a big belly band. It tells you about the book, the ideas, the companion apps, basically a bit of marketing material really, but it does lay out all the features of the journal. It also comes with a little booklet in the back, which has an abbreviated guide to bullet journaling, which is actually really handy. Like, I've read the bullet journal method, but it's actually nice to have this as a little reminder of some of the details. The journal is leatherette and has bullet journal in embossing on the front. There's a tiny stamped Leuchtturm1917 on the back. You can pay an additional $10 US, it varies country to country, but you can pay to get it personalised and have something stamped on the front that makes it yours alone. It has a narrow elastic band. This is one of the narrowest I've seen. It's 6mm wide. It's a very compact, really nice feeling journal. So when we open the journal, we open it and it comes with a little marketing materials and a thank you card, so a nice little touch there. Now inside the front cover you have a grid guide, and that's very handy. It saves you doing your own in the back. It has an owner page, so you've got a blank page and then you have your owner page, and then it's got a key page, it's got an intentions page which I have actually put something on, then has 4 index pages where you can record your page references. It doesn't have any lines or anything to guide you. It simply says at the top an index. If you don't want to use it, you could easily cover that up with marker or with a sticker. And then it's got your 4 future log pages, which generally if you put in 12 months in, most people will take 4 pages. Again, you could cover that up if you don't want to use it, because the only marking is the words future log at the top for those 4 pages. The actual journal starts on page 12. So that's a difference to some journals, because for instance the Vivid Scribbles journal, the page numbering starts after all those introductory pages, and they have 200 pages on top of the introductory pages, whereas this one is 206 pages, but that 206 includes those 11 pages at the front. So just a different way of doing the numbering. Now, it has 3 ribbons. They are long enough to pull around. It's interesting, 2 of them are stuck together. I'll have to cut them apart. I've tried pulling and they won't come apart. But there are 3 different coloured ribbons. In this blush one, it's a white, pink and black. There is a pocket, and you get with the journal a sheet of stickers, and Some of them are the bullet journal brand, but a lot of them are just your months, days and dates that you could use for your future log, or you could use it in your monthlies. So that's a nice little addition. They're very nice stickers that are the same colour as the paper. It doesn't come with a pen loop, but you can buy a pen loop, and that just sticks on the back cover there and comes around, so it sticks on the back inside cover, sorry, and then you can attach your pen. Page numbers are at the bottom centre of the page. There are less grids than dots than most journals. They have a much wider border around all sides of the page, which means that you only get 25 by 37 dots. Typically you get 27 by 39, so they've cut it by 2 dots on each length. It does reduce what you can do with the page though. I mean, you can always draw your own lines, but I just prefer having the dots right out. The dots are well aligned across the spreads. Yeah, it's never more than 1 millimetre, and it's not even 1 millimetre most of the time. There are extra marks on each page, so you get extra dots at the bottom here at third marks, and then halfway, and then the same again on the upright markers. There's a third marking thirds of the page and a half of the page, and the journal does lay flat. I wanted to add a note here about the joins between sections of binding. In the Leuchtturm, the join sits up, and then when you try to flatten it, it tears around the stitching. This was the same thing I noticed in the Marie on Rose journal. The Sequez and the Archer and Olive journals have stronger glue, so while they sit up a bit, they don't tear against the stitching. And then the Vivid Scribbles and the Tuck Tea journal seem to manage it without having it sit up too much. The way it sits up and then tears when you press it down on the Leuchtturm is a frustration for me, because it obviously leaves a mark on the page. Now, the paper, as you might have noticed, is cream, and I'm going to compare it to a journal that has white. You can see it is substantially different there. So this is my Clever Fox journal, and this is my Leuchtturm bullet journal, and it's quite significantly cream compared to the white of the Clever Fox. It's very smooth to the touch and feels a little bit silky. Not 100% smooth. I will take you to my pen test now. So the pen test, it's my standard pen test where I test a range of pens, different types of gel pens, ballpoint pens, friction markers. I've got markers, wet gel pens, Sharpie, mild liners, Prismacolor pencils, a paint pen. I've got a Posca paint pen, so a whole range of pens there, and fountain pen. And this journal, for a 120 GSM, the ghosting is minimal. Like you can see a faint shadow, but you would not see that at all once you started writing on the pages. And even, would you believe, the Sharpie, there's a Sharpie pen here. It's a ultra fine Sharpie, so quite a fine tip, but a lot of journals show through, and especially you would expect a 120 GSM journal to show through. So in my Clever Fox, for instance, which had very good results on the ghosting, it did still show the Sharpie pen. So that's actually a really amazing outcome. Improvement in this version. There's no bleed at all, and I've tried multiple things. So on my title page, it's a bit sunny here, on my title page I used Tombow markers, and then I just touched it up with coloured pencil. And the Tombow markers, I used some quite dark, like I used this one, quite a dark one, and went over it a few times just to see if it would bleed through, and there's not even any ghosting, so copes really well with heavy marker use. And watercolour, there was no bleeding at all either. So, and I made sure that I made it reasonably wet. Obviously, in a 120 GSM journal, you're not going to go overboard with the water, but I made sure that it had a fair bit of water on it and it hasn't soaked through colour at all. And I suspect a lot of the reason for that is the latex coating they put on the paper. It really does protect the paper and stop it soaking through to the other side. So that coating has made a huge difference to the ghosting and bleed issues. The dot darkness test here, it's average. It's the same as most other journals. It's a mid-range darkness and disappears under most markers. The smudging from writing, it takes a bit longer than most journals because that pen isn't soaking in straight away because of the coating. You are going to get a little bit more smudge, so you might have to be careful. It might be difficult for someone that's left-handed, or and it might be, you just have to take a little bit more care that you don't wipe it with your hand after having written something. Just let it dry out a bit. It's very easy to erase and there's no marks left from a 2B pencil. The whiteouts show a bit. This is a cream paper. I find whiteouts work the best on ivory papers, and this is a cream coloured paper, so the white doesn't really blend in too well. I might have to investigate whether there's whiteouts that come in that creamier colour. The best result was with a correction tape, but yeah, none of them were ideal. The fountain pen wasn't as smooth as I was expecting. I was expecting it, everyone raves about Leuchtturm and how good they are with fountain pens. I suspect in having to increase the weight of the paper to 120 GSM to deal with the ghosting issues, it's lost some of the perfect performance for fountain pens. So it still felt very smooth, but not as smooth as I was expecting. And also there is a tiny bit of feathering, but I would say I didn't even give it a score of 2 because it's so barely above 1 that I didn't worry about it. Watercolour, as I said, no bleeding, excellent results. There's a little bit of page crinkle, but minimal. And the paper was smooth, so it was easy to lift. Like, it doesn't soak in straight away because of the latex, so you do get a chance to correct mistakes. However, I would say it's only fine for colouring in. You really don't get the lovely effect you normally get with watercolour. It looks a little bit flat. It's almost like the colour was swimming around on top and didn't get to soak in anywhere, and you end up with some funny lines. So look, it's fine. I mean, I did this in watercolour and it's fine for colouring in with watercolour, but do not expect to get your amazing watercolour masterpiece looking right in this journal. The Leuchtturm company use FSC paper, so it's been sourced from sustainable forests by sustainable methods. That's a positive, but there is no recycled content in the journal or in the cover. So I wouldn't say they've gone above and beyond to try and reduce the company's impact, and considering it's such a big company and they produce so many journals and they're so popular, they're sold in 80 countries across the world, so very accessible. I would have hoped that they'd made more effort with environmental performance, but at least they're using sustainable paper and hopefully in the future they'll consider something that will improve their record. I'm actually really excited about this journal. I wasn't expecting to be, because I suppose I've seen so much negative feedback about it's the community. The bullet journaling community is so split on Leuchtturm in the past, because there's people with fountain pens that absolutely love the original bullet journal, and then there's people like me that tend more to the creative side of it and want to use different forms of media that don't like the ghosting. So they've tried to resolve those issues, and I think they've done it well. Lovely journal, very excited about it. I love that it comes with a little guide to support you. I think generally it performs just a touch better than the Clever Fox. I think the main difference between it, which is also a 120 GSM, I think the main difference between them is that the Clever Fox has very white paper, if you prefer that, and the texture of the paper is slightly different. And this one comes with all the guides and all the pre-printed pages and things like that. I think they're both valuable in their own way. The Clever Fox is a little bit cheaper. The cost of this one is probably mid-range. I don't think it prices itself out of the market. It's a good quality journal. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. I hope you give this one a try.